barricade situation in Oakville after reports of shots fired.
Our crisis negotiators are continuing to speak with the individual inside.
One person remains barricaded inside a home with neighbors asked to shelter in their basements hours after reports of gunfire in a quiet neighborhood. Plus,
I'm out there speaking for the healthcare of Ontarians that is beyond COVID, that is being compromised today by COVID response.
A member of the PC caucus ousted for opposing the lockdown, saying it is deadlier than COVID. The premier and doctors calling him out for spreading misinformation. And
we found a lot of overcrowding, and we were concerned.
The city of Vaughan closing all outdoor skating rinks, toboggan hills, and dog parks. But not everyone thinks it's a good idea, including the region's medical officer of health. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We begin with breaking news from Oakville. A second person who was barricaded inside a home is now out and in custody. Our Dahlia Ashry joins us live from the area of Lakeshore Road West and 4th Line. And Dahlia, all this happening just moments ago.
That's right, Kelda. It's been a long night. It's been over 9 hours. There was K-9 unit here, police, and someone was removed from the home and they were taken out on a stretcher. And actually just moments ago, we saw the ambulance take off and the night is wrapping up and police right behind me will probably be leaving shortly as well as the night is closing off here. Lakeshore Road West remains closed from 4th Line to Birch Hill Lane. Residents in the area were told to shelter in their basement after reports of shots fired in the vicinity of a home on Lakeshore West earlier today. Police have since said some residents have been evacuated just to be safe. Officers received the call just before 1:20 p.m. about potential shots being fired. 2 people were barricaded inside a home, and as we know now, they've both been out and they are safe. Spikes were put on the ground in case anyone tried to flee. Like I said earlier, a woman was one of the 2 people who were barricaded inside the home at around 5:20 p.m. She was removed safely, and the second person has been removed just moments ago. Officers are still trying to, they'll be investigating whether shots were actually fired earlier.
All right, Dahlia, thank you for that. A bit of technical difficulties there, but yeah, thank you for that report. That's Dahlia Ashry reporting from Oakville tonight. A Toronto woman has died after going missing on the North Shore Mountains in BC. Let's bring in our Dan Burrett, who is following the story from Vancouver. Dan, what can you tell us?
Kilda, the 21-year-old victim is identified on social media as Nikki Donnelly. The North Shore Rescue Team says she did not return from a solo hike to St. Mark's Summit in Cypress Provincial Park just north of Vancouver on Thursday. The team says she phoned her boyfriend in Toronto when she reached the summit, again on her way down, and then she called to say she was lost, and that call dropped. Rescuers say she did not call 911. Crews were called around 5 p.m. They searched all night with helicopters and night vision goggles, but they couldn't find her. Searchers went in again at first light Friday morning looking for tracks, but a lot of snow and wind and rain had fallen overnight. Team leaders say Donnelly was likely unprepared to spend the night on the mountain, but she did have some equipment.
She did have snowshoes and microspikes, so she was definitely on the hike. And she did reach St. Mark's. She sent a photo to her boyfriend of her on the top of St. Mark's. So it was on her way down that she'd lost her way.
And this afternoon, Mounties announced crews had found her just before 11 a.m. Vancouver time in a steep drainage area on the east side of the trail below the summit. They flew her back to their base, but she had died. Police are now urging anyone who needs help in the backcountry to call 911, and search teams will do whatever they can to find them. Mounties and the BC coroner will now try to figure out how the young woman died. Kelda.
Okay, thank you, Dan. That is CBC's Dan Burrett joining us tonight from Vancouver. A member of the Ford government is out. Progressive Conservative MPP Roman Baber has been booted from caucus after calling for an end to Ontario's lockdown. Baber made the plea in an open letter to the Premier, but the figures he uses to support his claim that the lockdown is hurting more than helping are being called out not only by the Premier, but doctors. Lorena Redicop reports.
This morning, the Premier quickly responded to York Centre MPP Roman Baber. In a statement, Doug Ford says he's out of the PC caucus effective immediately, and he also can't seek re-election for the party. Baber's letter says the lockdown is deadlier than COVID, saying hospital and ICU capacity are better than in the last 3 years, that it's causing an avalanche of suicides, overdoses, bankruptcies, divorces, and taking a toll on children.
The lockdowns don't work. Most of the GTA has been in lockdown since Thanksgiving, but the lockdown may actually be causing more harm than good.
The Premier called Baber's comments irresponsible. By spreading misinformation, he is undermining the tireless efforts of our frontline healthcare workers at this critical time, and he is putting people at risk.
Well, my first thought was this has really been tough enough on everybody without misinformation.
The Canadian Mental Health Association says Baber misrepresents their study on suicides and mental health.
Suicidal ideation is a very, very serious issue, not something to be misconstrued, and it would be helpful if we had a conversation about it in the context of how significant that is, as opposed to having it used to pursue a political point.
Online, doctors countered his numbers as completely wrong, underestimating COVID deaths by 100 times. The Premier's office issued a fact sheet disputing his claims one by one. On hospital occupancy being better than before the pandemic, it shows that in the past month, there's been a big jump in hospitalizations and patients in ICU. They correct him on the number of hospitals in the province and even correct his spelling of one of them. He's not the only former PC MPP questioning the lockdown. Randy Hillier faces criminal charges for hosting an anti-lockdown protest. In York Centre, Baber has some support.
I'm very upset to hear that he's been thrown out of caucus as a result of writing a very intelligent, principled letter.
But when told others say the figures are wrong,
I will have to look into that.
Baber plans to continue as an MPP, but now as an independent. Lorenda Radicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Pfizer says its international vaccine shipments will see delays as it works to scale up its manufacturing facility in Belgium. That means Canada will see reduced supplies of Pfizer-BioNTech doses in the coming weeks.
It has confirmed that Canada's deliveries will be impacted for the next 4 weeks. We will see an average reduction over this time frame of 50% of expected deliveries.
Federal officials say while the delay is unfortunate, it's not, quote, a stoppage. Next week's shipment of roughly 208,000 doses is expected to come in as planned. Canada has already received about 380,000 doses. Pfizer says it will be able to catch up by the end of March. Ottawa is still expecting to receive about 4 million doses by then. Premier Doug Ford has weighed in on the vaccine delay. In a statement, Ford says we are evaluating the impact of today's news that there will be a delay in Pfizer vaccine shipments. We will adjust as necessary, recognizing the fact that Ontario will soon have a baseline capacity to vaccinate nearly 40,000 people a day, with the ability to triple or quadruple this capacity with notice. Despite that, today was only the second day Ontario has reported more than 15,000 doses injected in the last 24 hours. So far, more than 17,000 Ontarians have been fully vaccinated with 2 doses. The province has now administered nearly 175,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine. And the province hit a milestone in its vaccine rollout plan today. Health Minister Christine Elliott tweeting that staff and residents in all 87 long-term care homes in Toronto have been vaccinated. Elliott says this is about a week earlier than expected. Officials will now be shifting their focus to vaccinating those in retirement homes. It is one of the cornerstones in the battle against a pandemic, and today health officials in Toronto are increasing their case and contact management staff. Toronto Public Health says nearly 200 new contact callers and case managers have been added to their team. This will help them focus on the rapid isolation of COVID-19 cases and help prevent the virus from spreading. The Ontario government is also building its roster of case managers and contact tracers. It plans to have a total of 5,600 people doing this work in the coming weeks. And starting today, some businesses in Ontario can apply for the provincial government's new small business grant. It's meant to provide up to $20,000 to those struggling with the provincial shutdown. But as Chris Glover reports, some owners are concerned they won't qualify for the money.
Caroline Starr's Therapy Collective is currently seeing revenue decline by at least 35% compared to last year. Still, when she first heard about the new small business grant, she was leery.
I was relieved but skeptical.
Now reading the fine print, looks like the small business owner was right. In order to qualify for up to $20,000 in grant money, small businesses have to have experienced at least a 20% drop in sales, comparing the month of April 2019 to April 2020.
I was disappointed. I think they sort of leave a lot of businesses out in the cold.
On the government's website, it says that time period reflects the impact of public health measures in the spring and represents the possible impacts now. Not for Starr's therapy business. Back in April, many clients were still paying.
I think a lot of businesses have experienced a slow bleed, I would say, and sort of qualifying it from April 2019 to April 2020 sort of leaves out a lot of the sort of nuances of what's been going on.
For months, while many small businesses have sat closed, big box stores offering similar products are operating.
This is something that perhaps compensates for that inequality, but at the same time, I don't think businesses want a handout. I think we just want to be able to operate our businesses as we see fit.
The province says businesses like strip clubs and sex clubs banned from operating prior to October 10th are not eligible to apply. Winter seasonal businesses like ski hills are eligible and can pick a winter month to compare. New businesses open since April 2019 are eligible too. And on the province's website, it says they can select alternative months for comparing revenue decline.
When I answered no to the question of do you have decline from April 2020 to April 2019, I had to answer no, and then it automatically kicks me out saying you're not eligible.
The owner of Crying Out Loud Wellness Boutique just opened October 2nd, 2019.
Well, I do agree that there looks like there is hope for me, but it will involve red tape and rigmarole. And to be frank, as a single mom with 2 kids in virtual school and my business has been in lockdown since November, I am tapped out.
And so it turns out there is hope for that last business owner. The minister's office is telling me that this is likely what happened. During the first initial questions, expect to see a question about whether or not you are a new business owner or not. And so that will triage you through to a different part of this portal. So a message tonight for any new business owners out there to be very careful when you're filling out this application form, especially with those initial questions. Now, as for the other major concern about businesses telling me that they didn't quite see the losses back in April that they have then gone on to see for the rest of the year, the minister's office confirming that they are looking into that as well. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
A new city councillor has been unofficially elected tonight for Ward 22 Scarborough Agincourt. Nick Mantis has won a tight race, beating Mana Wong by only 223 votes. The vacant seat had been held by Kim Karagiannis. He was removed from council in September for a campaign finance violation. 27 candidates were in the race for the chance to represent Ward 22, and despite a stay-at-home order, people were allowed to cast their ballots in person. The city says it worked with Toronto Public Health, ensuring each polling station was safe.
It's very important to get fresh air and physical activity and exercise.
After the break, reaction from residents in Vaughan as the city opts to close skating rinks and other outdoor facilities in an effort to curb the spread of COVID-19. Plus,
yes, some wet weather moving through at the moment, but we'll be drying out by morning. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. Will we get any sunshine into the weekend? I have all the answers coming up.
Welcome back. The City of Toronto has released the latest numbers from its speed camera program. The stats cover the period from July to November. More than 53,000 tickets were issued by 50 automated speed enforcement cameras. In the first month, 22,301 tickets were issued. That number drops steadily each month, and by the last full month, almost 5,200 tickets were given out. Similarly, the number of repeat offenders dropped significantly. A stretch of Renforth Road accounted for 10% of all tickets issued, the most of all areas. And the worst repeat offender, a Scarborough driver, logged 17 tickets. And the program isn't done. The 50 speed cams were moved to new locations on December 1st. New restrictions went into effect today in Vaughan. The city has closed all outdoor skating rinks, toboggan hills, and dog parks. The mayor says the decision was made to ensure people are following the stay-at-home order, but not everyone agrees with the closures, including the region's medical officer of health. Greg Ross has more.
This outdoor skating rink in Woodbridge was surrounded by a newly erected fence today with security guards on hand to ensure that it remained empty.
We are in a crisis, and what we need to do is to remain very disciplined and focused on reducing the opportunities to spread the virus.
The mayor of Vaughan says he made the decision to close skating rinks, tobogganing hills, and dog parks in the city because people were not following COVID-19 guidelines while using these facilities.
The reality is, though, is that we found a lot of overcrowding, and we were concerned.
But the decision was made without the support of York Region's medical officer of health.
We want to encourage the use of these facilities for exercise and for recreation and for people to, make sure that their mental health isn't further degraded.
Dr. Karim Kurji believes it is possible to regulate the use of these facilities like skating rinks the same way Toronto has.
Having some online registrations, limiting the numbers to 25, making sure that people are at least 2 meters apart. And we would certainly encourage tobogganing as well, respecting various guidelines.
My children and I, we used to come almost every other day.
This woman says the Chancellor Park rink in Woodbridge was a perfect outlet for her kids who spend a great deal of their day indoors.
It's very important to get fresh air and physical activity and exercise.
But the mayor says there are other outdoor recreation options for people.
The trails are open and some playgrounds are open as well.
It's a little ridiculous that the playground's right beside the rink, and I don't know, there's maybe 15 people there. No one's wearing a mask.
The mayor says the city will continue to monitor the situation and isn't ruling out the possibility of reversing course on these restrictions once they have more information. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
You're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. Cloudy tonight with light rain overnight. Currently 3 degrees downtown. We're joined now by our meteorologist, Colette Kennedy. And Colette, the wind certainly making it seem cooler than it was today. We're also seeing that wet weather you've been warning us about.
Yeah, that's right, Kelda. It's kind of, in some ways, about time. I mean, we just haven't really had any active weather, just that bit of drizzle. Now, finally, a real system that's moving through. Mostly, of course, it's been a showery event or light rain and just changing over to a bit of a mix. But because of the mild temperatures, that's really what we're looking at, not accumulations, at least not south of the 401. So we'll continue to see it kind of mixing over as temperatures are falling off. Those blustery winds letting up, too. And so we'll be seeing those lighter into Saturday. Kind of a sun cloud mix mid part of the day, or at least morning into the beginning of the afternoon, and then clouds kind of rolling back in, a few flurries possible, and the temperatures will be cooling down at least a little bit closer to seasonal. That'll be Sunday night and into the beginning of next week. Check out the daytime highs, though. I've got to show you St. Catharines at 7 degrees, just some incredible numbers here. You understand why this is more of a rain event for us, but I also want to go back to our calendar of the January month to mid-month. Here we are, and we're still talking about not just the overnight lows, daytime highs above seasonal. You could see one exception, and it was actually a split decision on the 8th, and that's because the daytime high was below seasonal, but the overnight low still didn't get there. So for the whole month, we have not reached a seasonal low. We haven't dropped down to -10 or cooler all of January. So that's the longest stretch we've seen with this. Okay, our system is going to be continuing to work its way eastward, where there will be heavier amounts of snow into eastern Ontario, closer to the nation's capital, where it's 15 to 25 centimeters, and there's the snowfall warnings in place there and some weather issues too. But where we could see maybe 2 to 5 centimeters, because we're going to also get into some lake effect by the time we get to Sunday. So some of those numbers could even go up into the higher elevations. It is going to be northwest of the city. See some sunny breaks early in the day, clouds come back in, and then into Sunday there's some of that setup with the winds coming across the lake. Otherwise, I think we'll have some breaks there and get a little sunshine coming in on Sunday. That snowfall potential, you see the target, there's the bullseye over there towards Ottawa. So know about that. And again, Dundalk Highlands, you could have a little bit more through there, but otherwise, this is going to be moving out of here overnight tonight for the GTA. Wind chill of -5, a little bit cooler there for Windsor through the overnight, and a little bit cooler tomorrow with your daytime high, hoping to get you some sunshine mixing with the cloud cover there. Tonight across the GTA, those numbers, starting to fall off as temperatures will be coming down, certainly from where they were peaking there in the afternoon hours. And tomorrow, it's actually still not a bad day. It's still well above seasonal with those numbers, but I said that cooler air is starting to filter in, and there you see it displayed as things cool down Sunday night, Kelda.
All right, looking forward to those sunny breaks. Thanks so much, Colette.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
A Toronto basketball pioneer has died.
The role that Harry played was huge, starting with making basketball important. He would come out and mesmerize the players on the court, and I'm talking some of the elite of Toronto basketball players, the guys who laid the foundation.
Well, we haven't had much snow this year, but the same can't be said for our neighbors in Winnipeg. And one woman is getting creative. What started off as a snowman slowly turned into a celebration of polar bears over the course of a week. She says she drew inspiration from a picture of bears online. There are now 14 sculptures on her front lawn. They've proven so popular with neighbors and passersby that there's now more on the way. And time now for a new take on a great Canadian winter tradition.
It's windy and icy. Sailboggin!
You heard that right, sailboggin, part toboggan, part sailboard. With a little danger thrown in for good measure, Ryan Doka in Regina came up with this one. He used garbage bags to harness the powerful wind gusts in a major blizzard that hit Regina this week. Gusts were as high as 126 kilometers per hour, a record for January. And speaking of riding the waves, we leave you tonight with a very unseasonable scene at Woodbine Beach. Some brave surfers and parasailers taking to the frigid waters to ride the waves. I guess they just couldn't pass up the opportunity. Have a great weekend, everyone.